Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really powerful, a theme we're calling community in motion. We're going to be looking at the real active steps, sometimes literally lifelong steps, that people take to shape the world around them. Whether it's fighting for fundamental rights over an entire century, trying to navigate some pretty complex legislation to build generational wealth, breaking these deeply ingrained cycles of silence around mental health, or just coming together to celebrate a beautiful game, community is absolutely all about action. I am so excited to guide you through these incredibly rich stories today. Here is our agenda for today. We'll start with the legacy of civil rights, then move into the racial wealth gap, followed by rethinking modern masculinity, and we'll wrap up with global unity through soccer. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. Legacy of Civil Rights, Bridging History and Present Action.
Now this timeline brilliantly illustrates an unbroken thread of activism. We're talking about Mary Louise Reeves. In 1942, armed with a college degree she earned at just 19 in the Jim Crow South, she arrives in Los Angeles. And she didn't just teach, she became a foundational organizer for black educators way before teachers' unions had any real political sway. She was doing that grueling living room organizing to build solidarity. Fast forward to 1963, the year of the historic March on Washington. 10 years after that, in 1973, when Tom Bradley became LA's first African-American mayor, Reeves literally occupied the space of civic power. She put on that iconic yellow jacket to serve as an LA City Hall ambassador, making the halls of government welcoming for black and brown residents for over 40 years. And now, in 2026, Reeves is celebrating her 104th birthday. In the exact same year, a massive new Defend the Vote March on Washington is announced. Her life is literally a living blueprint of institutional resistance. And that 2026 March, it is definitely not just some commemorative get-together. Martin Luther King III hit the nail on the head with this urgency, stating, "We are called to march again, not only in remembrance, but in action." This upcoming August 2026 mobilization, which was announced by a huge coalition of civil rights groups, is a direct, urgent response to a recent Supreme Court decision that gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. It's a modern demand to protect and restore voting access. It just proves that the battles fought back in 1963 by leaders like Dr. King and organizers like Mary Louise Reeves still require constant active defense today.
So let's see how this builds into the economic and structural realities we're facing right now. Looking at the 2025-2026 Los Angeles Unified School District, you can see exactly what modern organizers are still fighting to protect. Today, black students make up just 7% of the student body, and they're navigating a vastly underfunded system where a staggering 82% of all students qualify for free or reduced-price lunch. The battleground has basically shifted from the overt segregation of the 1940s to modern fights to protect things like the district's $50 million Black Student Achievement Plan. Young activists today are fighting for economic and housing justice for sure, but they are speaking in a dialect that pioneers like Mary Louise Reeves practically invented.
Moving on to Section 2. The Racial Wealth Gap, Debating AB 801.
Okay, consider the sheer gravity of this number. $865,000. That is the median cost of a single-family home in California, according to 2024 data. To even qualify for a home at that price, a buyer needs an annual income of roughly $221,200. Now, here is why this really matters. The median income for black households in California in 2025 hovered right around $70,000 to $73,000. So if you do the math, that means only about 10% of black households in the state actually have the minimum qualifying income to purchase a median-priced home. It is a massive structural hurdle to building generational wealth.
But wait, income is only one part of the story here. Based on an analysis of 37 million mortgage applications by the Greenlining Institute between 2018 and 2024, black borrowers were 78% more likely to be denied a mortgage at the final underwriting stage compared to white borrowers. This clearly illustrates a disproportionate lending bias. Civil rights groups are arguing that without dedicated examination and oversight, fair lending protections might look great on paper, but they don't exist in practice. And that's keeping the homeownership gap between black and white Americans roughly right where it was before the Fair Housing Act even passed back in 1968.
So how exactly is the state responding? Well, Assembly Bill 801, also known as the California Community Reinvestment Act, was introduced by Assemblymember Mia Bonta, and it represents a classic clash of priorities. On one side, supporters, including civil rights groups and the California Legislative Black Caucus, argue this bill is a necessary structural action. They say it will mandate transparency, requiring banks and credit unions to actively meet the credit needs of low and moderate income neighborhoods and prove they're actually providing loans to black and brown communities. On the other side, opponents like the California Community Banking Network and credit union advocates argue the bill just creates unnecessary and duplicative regulatory oversight. They're concerned it would mandate repetitive examinations that mirror processes already in place, which could ultimately drive up compliance costs for the very consumers who are struggling to afford a home. It's a highly complex debate, really balancing civil rights aims with financial regulatory concerns.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, Rethinking Modern Masculinity, the Brotherhood Experience.
This next community gathering in Bakersfield was rooted in a really stark, tragic statistic. Men in Kern County die by suicide at more than 3 times the rate of women. Yet, despite this, men make up just over 1/3 of Medi-Cal mental health service users in that area. Cultural expectations around masculinity so often tell men they just have to tough it out alone. But this staggering 3 times rate absolutely validates the urgent need for events like It Hurts to Heal, the Brotherhood Experience, where licensed professionals are actually getting in there to dismantle the myths surrounding therapy.
I want to draw your attention to this deeply humanizing exercise that opened the event. Imagine being in this room. Men were asked to anonymously write on an index card. On one side, they wrote how they present themselves in public, things like calm, happy, confident, and put together. But on the flip side, they wrote the unspoken burdens they carry in private: fear, self-doubt, financial pressure, imposter syndrome, and grief. When the therapist read these out loud, the contrast just filled the room. It revealed a crushing reality. Emotional pain in men frequently masks itself behind this put-together exterior, or sometimes it comes out through irritability or just hyperfixation on work.
Keynote speaker and clinical counselor Javon Kemp offered this incredible metaphor for this, using the image of a physical scar. Think about it. Just like a childhood injury leaves a mark long after the physical pain fades, emotional wounds do the exact same thing. He stated, "The wounds are not to define us. You can't always cover up the wound. You have to let it breathe. Allow it to become a part of our overall story. Smothering a wound under a Band-Aid forever just leads to infection, right?" This resonated so deeply with the men there, prompting them to open up about childhood traumas, divorces, and feelings of abandonment. They realized they don't have to carry that mask or that burden all by themselves.
And that leads us to the core solution discussed at the event, which is healthy masculinity. True strength is not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to acknowledge emotions, regulate behaviors, and build healthy relationships. It is literally the direct opposite of just suppressing your feelings. Therapists at the event emphasized that setting boundaries, practicing self-care, and showing humility are essential expressions of a mature, grounded man. The big takeaway for the attendees was profound. Accept your story, heal correctly, and keep moving forward.
Let's bring it home with Section 4, Global Unity Through Soccer, Looking Ahead.
The global soccer community was absolutely electric for the 2026 FIFA World Cup Championship match. Spain prevailed with a nail-biting 1-0 victory over Argentina. But what's truly special is how this all played out on a local level. At the L2 Live Transit First Fan Zone in Hawthorne, California, residents actually gathered at a metro station park and ride to watch the match on a massive screen. The crowd was incredibly lively, split right down the middle between Spain and Argentina supporters. They were enjoying interactive games, food vendors, an autism resource village, and some incredible live entertainment, from a high-octane drumline to cumbia performances. It was the whole shebang, a perfect snapshot of free, inclusive, family-friendly community joy.
Now, if you've got the post-World Cup blues, don't worry, we have some fantastic facts to look forward to. Here is a rapid-fire look at the 2030 World Cup. It's going to celebrate the tournament's incredible 100th anniversary. Because of this massive milestone, it's going to be uniquely global. It'll be primarily hosted across Morocco, Portugal, and Spain. But as a nod to the very first World Cup way back in 1930, special opening matches will actually take place in South America, specifically in Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. And because of all this multi-continental travel, the tournament is going to run for a record-breaking 44-day stretch. No way, right?
Which brings us to a question for you to ponder. We've looked at the century-spanning fight for civil rights and voting access. We've explored the ongoing legislative battles for fair housing and closing the wealth gap. We've seen the real courage it takes to break the silence on mental health and the sheer joy of coming together over global sports. Every single one of these stories required people deciding to be an active participant rather than a passive observer. So my question to you is, from fighting for civil rights to celebrating global sports, how will you step up and shape your own community? Think about what you can do today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, keep learning and keep building your community.